Our favorite 49ers Brock Purdy doubter Nick Wright has responded to the game that Brock Purdy just put up. And obviously so much is being made about his perfect passer rating and the 333 yards and 3 touchdowns and just all the things that came out of this game against the Bucs. But the reason why we've been kind of waiting for this is because Nick Wright dropped a spicy take, and it couldn't look any more wrong right now. Just to remind you of what he said last week, take a look right here.
Here's what I know, Greg Jennings. The Niners would be a more viable Super Bowl contender with Baker Mayfield.
Here we go.
And the Bucs would be in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes with Purdy. That I know. Now this week, do I think Baker is going to be able to overcome all the structural disadvantages the Bucs have compared to the Niners? I don't know. If anyone can, it's Baker. But it's going to be a very hard road to hoe. But I know if you switch quarterbacks, one team be better and one team be worse. And it's the Niners be better and the Bucs would be worse.
Now, obviously, we reacted to this in real time. I did a whole video on it. I really don't care what Nick Wright says, but I just thought it was such a horrendous take that I was like, all right, I'm biting. I'm going to bite on this. I'm going to react to it. I'm going to talk about how ridiculous this take sounds. Well, fast forward to today. It looks even more ridiculous after Brock Purdy just put up the performance he did against Baker Mayfield. So we get to hear from Nick Wright now after the game, and we got some pretty good back and forth. Let's listen to the opening kind of stance by Broussard, who has been a Brock Purdy believer, and then we're going to take a look at Nick Wright's response. And shocker, he's still sticking. He's digging his feet into the ground. He's not budging off his current thoughts, but let's take a listen right here to Broussard and the way he's quantifying it.
San Francisco is now 7-3 as Brock delivers a perfect plex of a passer rating. 21 for 25, 333 yards, 3 touchdowns. Here's McCaffrey after the game.
There's always going to be critics. He knows that. Everybody in here knows that. And I like when he plays a little bit edgy with a chip on his shoulder. I kind of hope the critics just keep coming because it pisses him off. He plays really well.
How much did you enjoy that play? Criticism for Brock right now is that his teammates are doing all the work. Sometimes they'll say, "Oh, it's just because Christian McCaffrey's on the team." But what's your opinion of that?
That's a horrendous statement. That's never been the case.
That's a horrendous statement. We should put that on our promos.
Brew, did Brock Purdy silence the doubters?
Well, maybe we should ask hater number one. I mean, he's sitting across the table. Doubter number one. But no, before you go, first of all, I told you guys this was going to happen.
Take it back.
I told you this was going to happen. In fact, I think we can show it. Friday, my headline Friday, striking resemblance to me right in there. Half-baked show, Brock cooks Baker, Niners roll.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, they were 12-point favorites.
Yes, that actually happened. So let me say a little something before we turn to our hater. Before someone across the table apologizes, bends the knee, repents, yells Iowa Mafia, begs for forgiveness, whatever you're going to do, Nick, let me get to a few things.
Please.
In a franchise that features arguably, not to me, not to you, but arguably the GOAT,
quarterback
Joe Montana, and another Hall of Famer, Steve Young.
Yeah.
Brock Purdy became the only quarterback in Niners history to have a perfect passer rating when throwing more than 20 passes.
Oh, yeah.
That's special. Yeah. And he did it, Nick, and you know this, against a good defense, a top 10 scoring defense. Top 10 scoring, Wilds. You can look at the yards and get get mad, but the top 10 scoring defense.
You think the Bucs have a good defense, bro?
They only give up 9 points. They're 9th in the league in points allowed. So that's pretty good. I think that's pretty good. And it's about points.
Sure.
All right, and I don't want to hear, oh, he's got Christian McCaffrey.
Why not?
Oh, he's got Kyle Shanahan.
Why?
Oh, he's got Deebo Samuel and on Ayuk and Kittle. Here's why not. Because which one of those guys is better than Jerry Rice?
None of them.
Which one of those guys is better than Terrell Owens?
None of them.
None of them. Yeah. So we don't hold it against Montana because he had Rice. We don't hold it against Young because he had both of those guys. Is Christian McCaffrey even better than Roger?
I'm
not sure he's better than Roger Craig.
All right, can I ask a question, bro? I don't know how long you're going to go.
I'm not that much longer.
Okay.
Not that much longer. All right?
Okay. Can I?
So what does Brock Purdy have to do?
Okay, I'll tell you.
I get it. Win the Super Bowl, but he can't win the Super Bowl now.
Drew has been on the side of Brock Purdy for most of the season and what he's been able to do. And even through the little downspin, he was still pretty confident in Brock Purdy and his ability and really did believe he was going to bounce back. But Nick Wright wasn't that way. And so, as you can see, Bruce pressing him and very excited, by the way, that Nick is so wrong on this particular take. But let's flip it over to Nick Wright and see what he has to say. Is he going to walk back at all, or is he going to double down? I bet you can guess what he's going to do. Take a listen to what he has to say right here.
Here's the thing, because if the question is to me, did Brock Purdy silence me? The answer is no, and I will explain why. And now, to your point on the Bucs' allegedly excellent defense,
well,
I know since over the last 6 weeks of the season, we can show it to you. Their pass defense has been the worst in the league, but I don't care about
What about points?
I actually don't care about that.
Okay.
Because I don't even think yesterday was the best game of Purdy's season. I thought he was better against the Cowboys. I know he didn't have the passer rating perfect, but it was like 144 against the Cowboys, and he had a damn near better defense and under a bigger spot. And I thought against the Jags he was exceptional just a week ago. So I don't even know if this was his best game. Statistically, you could argue it was.
Nick.
Of course,
this wasn't his best game.
But that is not the question. Let me use an analogy that I think you might appreciate. Let's say you have a friend that's thinking about buying a fancy brand new sports car like the one Brew has. And you're like, hey, that's fun, fast. I worry a little bit about it in the rain and a lot in the snow. Guy's like, nope, it's going to be awesome. And they're on the open road and the sun's shining like, this car's awesome. Then they take it out one weekend, it's raining, and they slide off the road. And then the next weekend, they take it out and it's snowing, and they can't get it out of the driveway. And you're like, I tried to warn you. And then the next weekend, they take it out, it's raining and snowing, and they wreck the car.
Okay.
And then the following weekend, the sun's shining, it's 75 degrees, and they're out there flying again. And they call you, they say, I told you this car was great. And I said, yeah, the things I was worried about before, that the first time the rain and the snow would be the analogous to not having all of the Avengers or having to play from behind, I'm still worried about. And that is where my level of consistency on this is unquestioned. Now, we can show you, in fact, can we show you Brock's, I'll give away half the blind reveal, Brock's numbers this year compared to, because people are talking about he is having the best year of anyone in football, and I don't even know if that's true. Hubs, can we show it? Brew, would you at least concede these two numbers are, it's per game, so that's touchdowns per game, then turnovers per game. One guy's at 0, you see?
Obviously,
Okay, very, very similar, right? So let's show it to you. And this is part of my skepticism. That's Jimmy Garoppolo last year.
How many games?
In 4 games with Christian McCaffrey versus Purdy this season. Now I want to show you one more.
So that was Garoppolo for 4 games and Purdy for 10.
Yes, with all the games Christian McCaffrey, correct. But we now know Jimmy G
I think I can get a 4-game stretch.
That's fine. Yeah. Okay, I'll show you.
LaMelo Ball looking like
Here's
Steph
another
Curry.
one. Would we agree that these numbers, while the yards are different, are very similar in a negative direction? Yeah, right? Okay. That's Jimmy this year. And Purdy in the one game, the games it was raining or snowing.
3 games.
The games where the games where
Rick, you know we could pick 3 games from Mahomes. We could pick 3 games
but
from
of course,
Lamar.
But if
we
those
could
are
pick
the
3 games
only
from
games,
anybody.
right?
Trevor.
But if the question is, because have I doubted that Brock Purdy can do what he did yesterday? No. play from ahead and put up great numbers the way Jimmy
How do
G
they
did?
get ahead,
No.
though? You act like he has nothing to do with them getting ahead.
So that's the
That's
difference.
the thing.
I do not act like that, Brew.
Yeah, you do.
No, Brew, I'm saying right now, I don't know why
Does he
you
have
say
anything
that.
to do?
Of course.
Because you act, to me, you come off like when it's 21-0,
No.
Shanahan says,
No.
Purdy,
No,
get in there.
that's where you're mistaken.
No, he
That's
helps
where
build
Of
the
course
league.
he does. I am not doubting that. I am not saying he's a bad football player. I am saying that the things that he will need to do to be the reason this Niners team finally gets over the hump, I do not believe he's going to be able to do.
No, I don't think he's supposed to be the reason.
Well, they've had these pieces before, right? With the reason they've been able to go over the hump is
They've had
quarterback
McCaffrey for
play.
half a year before this.
Sure.
He won his first playoff game. See, with your snow and rain and sleet analogy, I would say the equivalent of that is entering a playoff game as a Mr. Irrelevant rookie playing against a Seattle team and you throw for 300 yards and 3 touches. I would say the next week when you're facing America's team, the Dallas Cowboys, Dak Prescott, and you go in there and win, I would say that's analogous to some sleep. And I would say coming off the bye week with 3 bad games and everybody pouncing on you and saying you can't play. See, this is what we told you. And coming out and playing 2 fantastic games is the equivalent
here's
of
my
some rain.
question. Are either one of you confident? And I'm really curious what you think, Wilds, because you have flip-flopped on this week to week.
Results based.
Are you confident that if the Niners, by some chance, are trailing in the second half of a playoff game, that Purdy won't melt down? Are you confident?
Down?
Yeah, because he's melted down
I'm
each
confident.
time. Really?
Melting down isn't playing poorly.
We already heard from Christian McCaffrey that's basically saying if your narrative right now is to hang your hat on Brock's supporting cast and the offense is the only reason why he's finding success is a horrendous take, which is Nick Wright's one of his main points. Where does the backpedal lead Nick Wright? It leads Nick Wright to the last thing that these guys are hanging on to. Well, what does Brock Purdy look like when they're coming from behind? What does he look like when he's got to lead a team from behind? Well, he almost beat the Browns in a really horrendous game. Obviously, he was making those kind of plays in the comeback games against Minnesota and the Bengals, but we know he turned over the football, which obviously you don't want to do. So that's where Nick Wright is hanging his hat. He's saying, well, I still don't think if the 49ers needed to rely on Brock Purdy to get them back into a game, he can do it, which again, if you watch film, like there's nothing that Brock is doing that really changes anything from whether being up or whether being behind outside of the pressure. Obviously, he made some mistakes in those 2 games, Minnesota and Bengals, but very few mistakes. And he's been on point since then. And the other thing, too, it's like using Jimmy Garoppolo's statistics to compare and contrast why Brock Purdy's just a guy. It's just like, again, a fundamentally flawed discussion when you're using numbers to identify these 2 quarterbacks who play insanely different ball. One of the things that was an anomaly with Jimmy Garoppolo was I think his stats bared out better numbers than what he looked like on the field at times. Now, that's not a dig at Jimmy. Jimmy did play really good ball, especially before he got hurt down the stretch. But Brock, is one of the main points of emphasis that we talked about with Brock. Like right away, we're like, Brock's better than Jimmy Garoppolo as a rookie already. And we were talking about Jimmy playing some of his best ball of his career before he went down. So again, just comparing stats is another fool's errand. And that's Nick Wright even goes, well, that's why I'm skeptical. Look at Jimmy's stats. Look at Brock's stats. Wasn't even apples to apples comparison. Whatever. Nick Wright clearly understands where his brand needs to be in order to get people like me to react to it and talk about it. So I guess it's a win-win for everyone involved. Brock Purdy made him look silly, and they're going to get ratings for this commentary. So, but let me know what you guys thought of this back and forth. Let me know what you guys thought of Nick Wright's comments and his response to this whole situation in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.